The email landed in her inbox at precisely 9 a.m., as predictable as the San Francisco fog rolling in over the bay. Subject line screaming in all caps, "Don't miss the Carter family reunion." Summer in Napa Valley. The sender? Her older sister, Lauren, with a tone so chipper it could have been ripped from a greeting card. But Emily Carter, 32, perched in her sleek corner office on the 35th floor of a gleaming San Francisco skyscraper, knew better. Her name was just a formality, a box checked to keep up appearances. The Carter family reunion wasn't an invitation, it was a reminder of her place on the sidelines. Emily, Chief Strategy Officer at Horizon Wealth, one of the Bay Area's top financial firms, stared at the email, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Napa Valley, the sprawling estate where she'd grown up, wasn't the sun-dappled paradise of her childhood anymore. It was a stage for exclusion, where every June, her family gathered to celebrate themselves while she was quietly pushed to the edges. "Rooms are tight, Emily. Maybe book a hotel nearby," her mother, Margaret, would say with that honeyed voice, smooth as the Chardonnay she sipped. For 6 years, it was the same script, delivered with a smile that never reached her eyes. Today, though, something felt different. Emily's gaze drifted to the letter on her desk, sealed with the company's gold-embossed logo. It confirmed her promotion to Executive Vice President of the Western Region, a role she'd clawed her way toward through sleepless nights, cutthroat negotiations, and a relentless drive that left competitors in the dust. Her family didn't know. They never asked. To them, she was still the quiet middle child, the one who faded into the background while Lauren sparkled and their younger brother, Ethan, soaked up the spotlight. The office door swung open, and her assistant, Chloe, breezed in with 2 flat whites. "Reunion time again?" Chloe asked, catching the storm brewing in Emily's eyes. Emily gave a tight nod. "Let me guess, no room at the inn?" Chloe quipped, setting the coffee down. Emily's laugh was sharp, humorless, probably saving space for Lauren's yoga retreat or Ethan's latest, genius, startup pitch. She didn't need to wait for the inevitable call from Margaret tonight. "All soft apologies and excuses, sweetheart. We just want you comfortable. The guest wing's under construction. You understand, don't you?" But Emily wasn't the same woman who'd nodded along in years past. Swallowing her hurt. Not today. She leaned back in her chair, the San Francisco skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a testament to the life she'd built without their approval. At 32, she'd graduated top of her class at Stanford, earned a full-ride MBA at Harvard, and climbed the ranks at 3 major firms before landing at Horizon Wealth. Her latest deal, a $500 million merger, had just made headlines. But the Carters? They'd never even asked what she did. Her mind flashed back to a summer when she was 10, the year the family dynamic crystallized. "Emily, help with the dishes," Margaret had said, her tone clipped as she and Lauren prepped for a garden party at the Napa estate. Meanwhile, Ethan, all of 8, was out front with their father, James, learning to charm the guests. Emily stood in the humid kitchen, scrubbing plates, the sound of laughter from the lawn slicing through her. From that day, her role was clear: support staff, not star. Lauren was the golden child, Ethan the prodigy, and Emily? She was reliable, invisible, good enough to avoid criticism but never enough to be celebrated. Her phone buzzed, snapping her back to the present. A text from her best friend, Mia, a graphic designer in Los Angeles. "Napa again? Need me to send tequila or a getaway car?" Emily typed back, "Get me a one-way ticket out of this family circus." Then her phone lit up again, Margaret calling. Emily let it go to voicemail. She didn't need to hear the rehearsed lines to know what was coming. A hollow invitation laced with the same old rejection. She turned to the window. The city pulsing below. Emily had built an empire here, deal by deal, while her family played their perfect roles in Napa. But today, a new feeling stirred, not the familiar ache of being overlooked, but a quiet, razor-sharp resolve. She wasn't just the forgotten Carter anymore. She was Emily, the woman who just inked a deal that shook the financial world. And she was done playing their game. The Napa estate, with its rolling vineyards and ivy-covered walls. Used to be her safe haven. She'd spent childhood summers chasing fireflies and reading under the oaks. But somewhere along the way, it became a monument to her exclusion. Last year's reunion was the final straw. She'd flown in from a conference in New York, still in her tailored blazer, carrying a rare vintage wine she'd picked up in Bordeaux. As she walked into the estate, Margaret barely looked up. "Oh, Emily, you made it. I thought you'd be too busy." Before Emily could respond, Margaret turned to Lauren, gushing, "My darling, that dress is stunning." Ethan, who'd just tanked his second startup, gave a speech about family belief that had everyone toasting. No one asked Emily about her work. No one noticed the deal she'd closed that week, worth millions. Her phone buzzed again. Another email from Lauren, this time with an attached guest list for the reunion. Emily scanned it. Lauren and her fiancé in the master suite. Ethan and his new girlfriend in the East Wing. Even the kids had their own playroom. And Emily? A single line at the bottom. "Emily, if attending, consider an Airbnb nearby. We're maxed out. Hope that's okay." She closed her laptop, her pulse steady. She'd expected it, but this time, instead of the usual sting, something clicked, a clarity that felt like power. That evening, as the city quieted, Emily opened her laptop again, not to reply to Lauren, but to browse a real estate platform specializing in Napa properties. The Carter estate popped up first. Its listing stark. Price slashed 25%. Needs repairs. Foreclosure imminent. She froze. The house her family paraded as their legacy was drowning in debt. Refinanced 2 years ago with barely a dent in the loan. The Carters, with their polished Instagram posts and boasts of tradition, were scrambling to sell before the bank took it. Emily's lips curved into a faint smile. As a child, that house had been her sanctuary. Now, it was a symbol of their denial, and her chance to rewrite the story. She called her attorney, Sarah, the next morning. "You want to buy it?" Sarah asked, disbelief in her voice. "Under your name?" Emily's smile sharpened. "No. Use the holding company we set up for the merger. No one needs to know it's me." Sarah laughed. "Sneaky. I'm on it. Want to tell your family?" Emily's voice was calm. "Final. I've never told them anything. Not when I made Forbes under 40. No reason to start now." 3 weeks later, it was done. The bank didn't care who bought it as long as the funds cleared. Emily signed the contract in her office. Her coffee still steaming. Sarah slid the keys across the table. "Congratulations, Ms. Carter. You now own the Carter estate in Napa Valley." Emily closed her hand around the keys, their weight grounding her. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. She didn't tell a soul, not Mia, not Chloe, not even her closest colleague, Ryan. Instead, she booked a weekend in Napa, timing it to overlap with the reunion. She arrived Thursday morning, the estate's faded facade greeting her like an old friend. In her passenger seat sat a leather portfolio stamped with Horizon Wealth's logo. Fresh from finalizing a merger that sent shockwaves through the industry, the deal had earned her a nomination for Global Vice President. With a new office waiting in Singapore, her family knew none of it. To them, she was still Emily, the one who skipped reunions. As she stepped onto the porch, the Napa breeze carried memories of simpler days. But Emily wasn't here to reminisce. She was here to face the family who'd written her off. Not with anger, but with a truth they couldn't ignore. Tomorrow, they'd arrive, expecting to waltz into their house. They had no idea the lock had changed, and Emily held the key. The Napa Valley sun dipped low, casting golden streaks across the Carter estate's vineyard. But Emily Carter stood in the shadowed living room, her heart steady as steel. Yesterday, she'd dropped a bombshell. She owned a house her family thought was theirs. The look on their faces, her mother Margaret's stunned silence, her sister Lauren's wary squint, her brother Ethan's nervous laugh, still lingered in her mind. She'd sent them to a 5-star resort 10 minutes away, golden key cards in hand, with a polite but razor-sharp message. Things were different now. Emily wasn't the invisible daughter anymore. She was the one holding the keys, literal and figurative, to their so-called legacy. But the real shift began the next morning. When the national financial news lit up screens across the country, Emily's face flashed on CNBC, poised in a navy suit, shaking hands with the CEO of Pinnacle Ventures. The caption read, "Emily Carter, 32. Masterminds $500 million Horizon Pinnacle merger." The deal had redrawn the financial map. And Emily, the youngest woman to lead such a coup at Horizon Wealth, was the name on everyone's lips. By noon, her phone was a war zone of notifications. Colleagues sent champagne emojis. Her LinkedIn exploded with connection requests. And Mia, her best friend in LA, texted, "Girl, you're everywhere. Wall Street Journal's calling you a legend." Then came the messages she'd been waiting for, though not in the way she'd imagined. First was Margaret, her mother, with a hesitant text. "Emily, was that you on the news? So proud, sweetheart." No apology, just a vague nod to her success. Next, Lauren, ever the polished PR queen. "Wow. Media's eating this up. Congrats. Let's catch up?" And Ethan, predictably opportunistic, "Sis, that deal was wild. Got time to advise my new startup?" Emily locked her phone, a dry laugh escaping her lips. For years, they'd ignored her, left her out of photos, pushed her to Airbnbs, dismissed her as the boring Carter. Now, one TV segment had them scrambling. Not with remorse, but with self-interest. She wasn't surprised, but it stung all the same. Emily paced the estate's creaky hardwood floors, memories flooding back. The summer she was 12, when she'd overheard Margaret tell a guest, "Lauren's our star, Ethan's our dreamer. Emily, she's dependable." Or the Christmas when Ethan's failed app got a family toast. While Emily's first big deal at Horizon went unmentioned, she'd spent years chasing their approval, believing if she climbed high enough, Stanford, Harvard, Forbes, they'd see her. But they never did, until now, when her name was too big to ignore. The crunch of gravel outside snapped her out of it. Emily glanced through the window to see Margaret's silver Lexus pulling up. Alone, no luggage, no entourage, just her mother stepping out, clutching a small cedar box. Her face etched with something new, vulnerability. Emily opened the door, her expression unreadable. "I'm not here to ask for anything," Margaret said, her voice low, almost hoarse. "But I need you to have this." She handed Emily the box. Its edges worn but polished, like a relic of care. Emily lifted the lid. Inside were clippings. Young exec closes record-breaking deal. Emily Carter named top under 35. Her Stanford valedictorian speech. Her Harvard MBA invite. A quiet archive of her life, tucked away in secret. "I thought you didn't care," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's eyes dropped to the floor. "I told myself you didn't need me. You were soaring. And I was too proud to admit I was wrong. I clipped every article, saved every milestone, but I couldn't face you. I thought you'd outgrown us." Emily closed the box, her fingers tracing its grain. "You stayed silent because of pride?" Margaret nodded, tears spilling. "I was wrong, Emily. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to try. On your terms." Emily didn't respond right away. She stepped back, gesturing to the couch. "Sit. There's coffee." They sat in uneasy silence, the weight of years between them. Margaret, once the untouchable matriarch who commanded every Carter reunion, now looked small, her hands trembling around her mug. "I don't know where to start," she admitted. Emily's gaze was steady. "Start by listening. No more favorites. No more pretending I'm not here." Hours later, as the sun sank into the vines, the gate creaked again. Lauren stepped out of her Tesla. No makeup, no designer heels, just jeans and a loose sweater, holding a bottle of iced tea and a worn copy of The Alchemist. "You still read on the porch?" she asked, her smile tentative. Ethan trailed behind, juggling a laptop and a folder, looking like a kid caught sneaking cookies. "We're not here to grovel," Lauren said, her voice soft but clear. "Words won't fix a decade of screwing up. But I'm here because I want to be your sister, not your boss." Ethan nodded, sheepish. "I'm taking a business course online. Not to impress you, but to get it right this time. Could you, maybe look at my pitch?" Emily studied them, The two people who'd once been her measure of failure. Lauren, the perfect daughter who'd always outshone her. Ethan, the golden boy who could do no wrong, even when he did everything wrong. Now, they stood before her, not as rivals, but as people trying to reach across a chasm they'd helped create. Nothing changes overnight, Emily said slowly, but today, we're talking. That's a start. Lauren's eyes softened. I'm taking a sabbatical. I'd like to visit you in Singapore. If you're okay with it. Not to lecture, just to be there. Emily raised an eyebrow. As a sister? Lauren nodded. Only that. They sat on the porch. The four of them, Emily, Margaret, Lauren, Ethan, under a sky bruised with dusk. The air was thick with unspoken regrets. But for the first time, no one fought to be heard. Ethan shared his startup idea. This time backed by data. Not dreams. I'm not asking for money, he said, half laughing. Just your brain. Emily pulled out her tablet. Send me the deck. If it's serious, I'll give you a serious review. Margaret, quiet until now, spoke up. I'm relearning how to cook. If we do this again next year, I want to make something real. Not just pose for pictures. Emily didn't forgive them that night. Forgiveness was a road, not a switch. But she opened the door, setting clear rules. No favoritism. No hierarchies. Just respect. She'd spent years thinking success was her ticket to their love. Graduate first. Win awards. Make headlines. But sitting there, watching the Napa stars emerge, she realized the truth. She didn't need their validation. She needed her own peace. And peace meant choosing who walked beside her, not chasing those who'd left her behind. The next day, as Emily packed for Singapore, her new role as global vice president looming, Margaret appeared at the door again. Can we talk? She asked. Her voice fragile. Emily nodded, closing her laptop. I don't expect you to trust me yet, Margaret said, but I'd like to start over. No more leading the show. Just being your mom. Emily's chest tightened, but her voice was firm. Then it starts with equality. No more sidelining anyone. If you want this, you prove it. Margaret nodded. No defenses left. I will. Lauren dropped by later, alone, with a small gift. A map of Singapore's hidden cafes. You always loved exploring, she said, her smile shy. I'm not here to control anything. Just thought you'd like it. Emily took the map, memories of their childhood rivalry fading against this new, tentative warmth. Visit, she said, but come as my sister. Not the star. Lauren laughed. A real laugh. Deal. That night, they ate together at the estate, nothing fancy. Just takeout pizza and stories. Ethan pitched his idea, nervous but prepared. Margaret listened without interrupting. Lauren shared a work failure. Not her usual triumphs. And Emily, for the first time, felt seen, not as a title or a dealmaker, but as herself. As the meal ended, she stepped onto the porch, a glass of water in hand, the vineyard stretching into the dark. Margaret joined her. You're really okay leaving all this? She asked. Emily smiled. I'm not leaving to escape. I'm leaving to live. And this house? I'll rent it out. But if we all try, I'll keep summers open for us. One condition. Everyone pitches in. No more social media stunts. Margaret's eyes glistened. I'll bring the pie. From scratch. Emily's laugh was soft, real, as she boarded her flight to Singapore. The Napa Hills fading below. She saw her family's faces in her mind, not the ones who'd ignored her, but the ones who'd shown up. Flawed but trying. She wasn't running anymore. She was building a life, a home, a family that chose her back. In Singapore, standing in her Marina Bay apartment, Emily opened an email from Ethan, a revised pitch with a note. Thanks for the shot. I'm in this for real. Lauren called, planning her visit, and Margaret sent a photo, the cedar box on the family mantel, next to a new picture of all four of them, captioned, Family is where you're enough. Emily's eyes burned, but she didn't cry. She'd spent years chasing their pride. Now, she had her own. Success wasn't revenge, it was healing. And family wasn't blood, it was who showed up, listened, and stayed.